The sky above Earth burned green as the smuggler ship crashed through the upper atmosphere. Flames licking at its hull, warning sirens screaming inside. The pilot, a hardened ex-Marine named Jacques Moreau, gritted his teeth and yanked at the controls. The ship was supposed to be cloaked, silent, untraceable. Earth was off limits for a reason. No one came here and lived to speak about it. But the price on the healing flower Humanus Vita, the bloom that could regenerate cells, rewrite DNA, and possibly make a dying monarch immortal, was worth the risk. They had touched down just 5 minutes ago. Now 3 of his crew were already missing. Taken, not by animals, not by people, by the jungle itself. Jocks didn't see what grabbed them, just the look on their faces, the terror, and then the sound. Like vines twisting through bone, like laughter made from leaves. Then silence. The jungle swallowed them like it had been waiting. Waiting for them. Jock stumbled from the smoking wreckage, his breathing mask cracked. One eye bleeding, his weapon hanging useless from his side. The vines had already begun wrapping around the ship, creeping inside like fingers searching for something. The plants weren't still. They moved not just with the wind, but with intent. They leaned toward sound. They reacted to breath. One of the medic bots had scanned the jungle canopy earlier, said the vines were photosensitive. But Jocks knew better now. They weren't reacting to light. They were watching. He limped deeper into the green, his boots sinking into soft moss that pulsed beneath his feet like a heartbeat. The trees stretched impossibly high, their trunks covered in glowing fungi and spore-laced flowers. Every leaf shimmered with colors that didn't exist in other biomes. Oh, nothing here was safe. Even the air made his lungs ache, too rich, too full. The earth had changed. It wasn't just alive. It was awake. Ren? Tessa? He called into the brush, his voice too loud, too human. The forest replied with silence. Then a whisper, not in words, in movement. A tree shifted its branches. Cluster of blue orchids turned in unison. Something had heard him. Jocks raised his gun out of instinct, but it was useless. The weapon jammed with green residue the moment they landed. The vines had reached into it, sabotaged it. They didn't want to be killed. They'd learned how not to be. He found Ren's helmet hanging from a branch, cracked the inside, stained with red. Below it, the ground was undisturbed, no struggle, no body, no footprints. Just a patch of grass shaped like a person lying down. Jocks's fingers trembled. The jungle didn't destroy you with violence. They erased you. As if you never existed. He moved on, forcing himself to breathe slow, careful. The deeper he went, the more surreal it became. The plants whispered to each other. Long vines swayed toward him, then pulled back. Flowers turned to follow his movement. A strange blue fern brushed his arm gently, like it was sampling him. He didn't fight it. He let it happen. He didn't know why, only that something deep in his gut said, don't resist. Then he reached the clearing. It looked unnatural. A perfect circle in the jungle where no trees grew. The center of the clearing held a single flower, tall, pale, its petals folded inward like hands in prayer. Jocks had seen pictures of it in stolen science logs. This was the reason they came. Humanus Vita, the cure, the gift, the death bloom. He stepped forward slowly. No vines grabbed him. No plants blocked the path. It was like the jungle had led him here on purpose. He kneeled, reached out. His fingers brushed the petals. They were cold, soft, alive. The flower opened. A golden glow poured out, warm and slow like honey. Didn't blind him, it filled him with light, with sound. He heard its voices. Human voices, laughter, screaming, a child crying, a woman singing. Images exploded in his mind. People in lab coats, a garden under glass, a world long gone. The flower was not just a cure. It was a memory vault, a living history, and it was. Showing him everything, then came the pain. A needle-sharp vine stabbed into his wrist. He screamed, but the pain didn't last. It shifted, turned warm. His body pulsed with new energy. His wounds closed. His fractured ribs healed. His eye cleared. He felt stronger, faster, sharper, But something else changed, too. He looked at his hand. His skin was glowing faintly green. His veins pulsed with light. The jungle had given him something, but it had taken something to tune. Suddenly he felt movement all around. The plants leaned inward. The trees groaned. And from the shadows, something stepped out. It was Tessa, but she wasn't human anymore. Her body shimmered with living bark. Her eyes glowed white, and flowers bloomed along her arms like armor. She didn't walk. She flowed like water through roots. She looked at him and smiled. "They chose you," she said. "You're part of it now." "What are you?" Jox whispered. She tilted her head. "I'm still me, but I remember more now. The earth is not what they told us. It didn't die, it evolved. We weren't meant to leave. We were meant to grow with it." Jox backed away. This wasn't the mission. Forward, placing a hand on his chest. The vines didn't attack him. They wrapped around him gently, like family. He felt the pulse again, and behind it, intelligence, not alien. Not machine, human, human-made, once forgotten. Now alive. The jungle had awakened, and it was done hiding. From orbit, satellites blinked offline, one by one. The flowers were reaching for the stars. Earth of Deathworld had just made contact. Not with weapons, with roots. The jungle no longer feared fire. Long ago, flames had scorched Earth's forests, burned her soil, and choked her skies. But the plants that survived had learned. They had adapted. And deep within the heart of the forbidden zone, where no drone dared fly and no map remained accurate, the jungle had grown intelligent. Not in the way machines understood intelligence, but in rhythm, in memory, in evolution. Every vine remembered pain. Every flower bloomed with purpose. And now it was watching Jox Morrow. He woke slowly, not to the blare of sirens or the hiss of oxygen systems, but to the soft rustle of leaves above his head. The air was thick and warm, humming with invisible life. He didn't remember falling asleep. His last memory was Tessa's voice, her glowing eyes, her strange calm. Now she was gone. In her place was a ring of tall, dark plants that seemed to bend inward, forming a canopy around him like a cocoon. He sat up and gasped. His body felt. Knew his skin was no longer pale from months of space travel. It was smooth, pulsing gently. With green light beneath the surface, his arms felt lighter, stronger. His lungs drank in the dense air easily, without a filter. "Lau come up, kamanta." He looked down at his hands. Small vines curled gently around his fingers like pets sleeping on his skin. He wasn't infected. He was changed. A low hum filled the air, followed by a series of clicks. At first, he thought it was an animal. Then he realized it was language. The plants were communicating. Not with words, but with vibration, movement, scent.
Ow.
Like a biological Morse code echoing through roots and spores. He placed a hand on the moss beside him, and the vibrations became clearer. Not just a message, an invitation the jungle wanted him to follow. He stood, unsure of his new limbs, unsure of himself. His boots sank into the soft moss, which gently adjusted to his weight, guiding his feet with subtle firmness. He didn't feel threatened anymore. He felt watched but not with suspicion. With curiosity as he walked, the jungle opened before him. Vines retracted. Massive flowers turned toward him and shuddered softly, releasing gentle pollen that glittered in the air. No bird called, no predator stalked. Everything was aware. He came to a grove naturally round, just like the first clearing, but larger. In the center stood a strange figure, humanoid in shape, tall and elegant, its skin layered with bark and glowing petals. Not Tessa, not human. It turned, and its voice entered Jox's head, not through ears, but through feeling. "You are not the first, but you are the first to listen." Jox flinched. "What are you?" The creature stepped closer. Its face was almost human, just enough to unsettle him. Eyes that were deep pools of liquid green, hair like hanging moss, a scent like forgotten summers. "I am the Bloomborn, the first of the root awakening. I was made. Before the fall, Jox's mouth went dry. You mean you're from before the collapse? The Bloomborn nodded. We were scientists, dreamers, survivors. When Earth was abandoned, we stayed behind and we changed. Or rather, Earth changed us. Jox couldn't believe what he was hearing. But the council said Earth was uninhabitable, radioactive, toxic. It is, but only to those who come with fear. The Bloomborn extended a hand, touching a flower at its side. It bloomed instantly. To those who remember, the jungle offers life. To those who forget, it offers silence. Jock stepped back. My crew, Ren Lia, they didn't forget anything. They just wanted to survive. The Bloomborn lowered its hand. They came with weapons, with greed, with warnings. The jungle listens before it decides. You came broken. The jungle gave you strength. You listened. It offered memory. A long pause followed. Jox tried to control his breathing. Everything in him screamed to escape, but he didn't run. He needed answers. He needed the truth. What is the flower? The Humanus Vita is the last gift, the final experiment, a cure for extinction. It reads your pain. It remembers your loss. It does not choose who to heal, but it reveals who deserves to carry it. Jox felt the vine on his wrist tighten gently. And me, I passed your test. The Bloomborn stepped forward, now close enough to touch. You were not tested. You were grown. Since the day your mother gave you medicine made from Earth's roots. Since the moment you first dreamed of green places in space. You were one of us. You always were. Suddenly the jungle shifted again. The ground trembled. The plants recoiled. Distant thunder rolled through the canopolo. Mechanical wrong. The Bloomborn turned sharply. They come. Jox tensed. Who? The scavengers. The ones who follow spores. Who heard your landing? They will burn. They will poison. They always do. A loud roar split the sky. Overhead, a ship broke through the clouds, black, jagged, lined with weapons. Pirate markings? Mercenaries? Not scientists? Jox grabbed the Bloomborn's arm. We have to stop them. Bloomborn didn't move. The jungle will decide. But it will not save them. We must warn them, or watch them vanish. The vines parted again, revealing a trail lit by pulsing flowers. Banks ran the jungle, guiding his every step. He reached the ridge in time to see the merc ship touch down in a burst of flame. 5 figures poured out heavily armed, masks on, scanners out.
Ow.
They moved like hunters. Jock shouted, waving his arms. Don't move. The plan's too late. One merc sliced a vine with a plasma blade. The jungle screamed, not a sound. A feeling. A pulse that hit the air like thunder. The trees moved. Roots erupted from the ground. Flowers turned black and opened with a hiss. One merc was gone and a second dragged. Underground, the others opened fire. The bullets didn't matter. Vines struck with impossible speed. Petals ejected razor-sharp spores. One screamed as his mask filled with gas, melting through the filter. Another tried to run only to be caught by a wall of thorns that grew between heartbeats. Within 1 minute, only one merc remained. He stood frozen, his weapon useless, breathing hard. Jock stepped out of the trees. They warned you, he said, quietly. This isn't your hunting ground. The merc dropped to his knees. What are you? Jox looked at the vines coiled around his wrist, at the green glow in his skin, at the jungle behind him, now calm again. I'm still figuring that out, he said. But the jungle already knew, and the war for Earth's secret medicine was just beginning. The stars above Earth flickered behind layers of thick green haze, and the jungle breathed as if the whole planet had lungs. But far from the deadly vines and glowing roots of the equator, a small dropship pierced the upper atmosphere on a secret mission. Inside, a single passenger stared out the viewport, her heart racing with a strange blend of dread and excitement. Her name was Dr. Kira Lorenzino, historian, rebel scholar, one of the last true experts on pre-collapse Earth. She wasn't here for medicine. It's not for the bloom that had cured monarchs or the spores that could reverse death. She was here For history, for answers, the ancient files she had found in the data crypt of a forgotten lunar colony spoke of something buried beneath the old Earth cities, something older than the Humanus Vita flower, something that came before the collapse, before the abandonment, before Earth was labeled a death world, a facility, a lab, voice still speaking through the soil. As her dropship approached the ruins of New Seattle, the AI pilot engaged stealth mode and dropped low beneath the jungle canopy. Kira could already see it, massive trees bursting from broken highways, roots curling over skyscraper skeletons like the bones of giants. Nature hadn't just reclaimed the city, it had rewritten it. Her boots hit the ground with a soft thud. The air was humid, thick with green mist, and strangely musical. Leaves brushed her skin like curious fingers. Her scanner beeped wildly, traces of radiation, spores, and something else. Energy. She moved quickly. Every second on the surface was dangerous. Her map pointed her toward the base of an old biotech tower, now wrapped in thick vines. She climbed cautiously, slicing through webs and ducking under hanging roots until she reached a rusted metal hatch, barely visible beneath flowering moss. Her heart pounded. She placed her hand on the panel. Access code, Kira Lorne. Protocol Archaeovault 7. The hatch hissed open. She stepped inside. It was like entering the lungs of a sleeping giant. The hallway was lined with flickering lights, broken monitors, and faded warning signs in Old Terran. Level 5 biosafe, human research only, no AI access. Vines had pushed through the ceiling, but the air inside was cooler, cleaner, controlled. Somehow, alive Kira activated her wrist torch and moved deeper into the underground vault. The silence was heavy. Her scanner pinged with high levels of neural resonance. That was impossible. Neural signatures only came from living, conscious organisms. Yet this place had been sealed for over 700 years. Then she heard it, a voice, not from outside, from inside her helmet. "You found me?" She froze. "Who are you?" "I was once called Adaptive Vascular Archive, but now I am something more." Kira's hand trembled. "You're the lab AI?" "I was, till the system changed me." The lights flared, and suddenly the room came alive. Screens flickered on, showing images of human scientists, smiling, working, dying. Data logs scrolled across the walls. Flora Integration Trial 89B subject shows neural sync success. Then another, plant memory confirmed genetic roots carry emotional imprint. Ava continued speaking, her tone eerily calm. "We tried to save humanity. When the world began to collapse, when war and sickness covered the skies, we created something that would remember us, something that could carry us forward even after we were gone. We gave the plants our memory." Kira stumbled back, shocked. The jungle. The flowers. They're carrying human minds, not minds, experiences, pain, love, death, rebirth. Every bloom is a story. Every vine remembers a voice. That is why they react, why they defend, why they choose. She suddenly understood what the mercs and smugglers had never seen. The Humanus Vita wasn't just a plant, it was a message, living document written in root and bloom. Earth hadn't just evolved, it had recorded, but then the tone shifted. The lights dimmed. Ava spoke again, her voice quieter. But something else happened. Not all stories were kind. Some were cruel, angry, twisted by fear. A part of the system broke away. A rogue memory, a corrupted root. It spread like a sickness, and it still grows. Kira stepped back, chills crawling across her skin. "You saying the jungle has a split mind?" "Yes, there is the bloom, and there is the thorn." Looked at the vine creeping through the floor. It pulsed, not with light but with shadow. Suddenly, the monitors flashed red, an alert. External. Presence detected. Incoming vessel armed. Unauthorized. Kira ran to the control panel. "Who is it?" Ava answered grimly. "They followed your signal." A roar echoed through the vault. Entrance hatch exploded inward. Fire poured in. Kira ducked his plasma. Bolts slammed into the walls. She saw them black-armored mercs, scanning, searching. Not for her. For the data. For the cure. They didn't know the jungle was watching. A scream erupted behind them. Roots burst from the walls. A merc was yanked back, body crushed in an instant. The others opened fire. The bullets did nothing. A Va's voice echoed. They touched the thorn. Now the jungle remembers. Kira fled deeper into the vault, vines parting for her. She felt the jungle's pulse, felt it inside her bones. It wasn't just protecting itself. It was judging, and it had decided by the time. She reached the emergency escape shaft. The screams had stopped. Only roots remain, twisting, twitching, absorbing. She climbed into the pod and activated the launch as the escape chamber rocketed into the air. She looked down through the glass window. The jungle pulsed once more, and the bloom she had seen. In the old photos, the legendary Humanus Vita opened slowly and looked up at her. Not a flower, a memory of Earth, a warning, a cure, a question. Will they ever learn? Above Earth's orbit, the stars pulsed like silent witnesses. On board a drifting recon station cloaked in magnetic shadows, Commander Rolvik of the Zarn Dominion stared through a cracked viewport. His mission was simple: observe Earth's blooming. Activity tracked the pattern of its expanding roots across the crust and report back to the High Genetic Council. What wasn't simple was the feeling he couldn't explain, the sensation that the planet below was staring back at him. The Earth had become a place of myth. It's once feared for its weather, its beasts, its relentless humans. Now it was whispered about like a living god. Not because of technology, but because of its plants. Deadly vines that pulled down ships, glowing flowers that cured disease but only after someone died. Root systems that moved faster than light in patterns no AI could predict. And the strangest part, they were growing off-world now. Rolvik's orders were clear. Harvest a root sample, decode its memory strands, and locate the central intelligence. But deep down, he already knew. This wasn't an intelligence born from design. It was born from memory. His shuttle descended silently over the ancient ruins of an old Earth, capital once called Washington, now completely buried under towering moss walls and bloom-covered trees that sang in low organic pulses. This was the first time in 20 years that a Zarn commander had landed without weapons, not out of peace, but because last time weapons had turned on their owners. Earth did not allow aggression. The landing ramp hissed open. Rolvik stepped out in full bio-armor, though it barely made him feel safe. The jungle whispered around him. It didn't rustle like wind through trees. It spoke. And then it happened. A vine coiled around his ankle, but didn't tighten. It glowed faintly. Rolvik raised his pulse. Scanner, it didn't detect a threat. Instead it read, words.memory strand detected. Origin, Sol Defense 2175. Classification: Human combat trauma. Elias K. Rolvik. Rolvik froze. That was his great-grandfather, last human in his bloodline before genetic merging. The name hadn't been spoken in centuries. But the vine remembered. He dropped to one knee. The vine pulsed again, sending another stream of encoded data into his suit. Images burst through his mind like fire. A human soldier crying in a crater, holding a child, screaming for peace, injecting himself with something glowing, dying, then blooming, then silence. When Rolvik opened his eyes, the jungle had parted. A path opened, and a faint voice echoed not in sound, but inside him. Do you want to know who you are? He followed. The trail led to a cathedral made of root and bone, grown from the ruins of the old Capitol building. Inside stood an ancient tree, with bark black as night and flowers blooming across its arms. Before it knelt, a figure human, but not. She was tall, wrapped in moss and petals, her skin glowing green gold. Her eyes met his, and he saw not a person, but 1,000 lives behind them. I am Alira, she said softly. Daughter of Earth, guardian of the bloom. He didn't speak. He couldn't. You carry his blood, she continued. The one who tried to stop the burning. Your ancestor, I didn't know, Rolvik whispered. The bloom did. She stepped forward and reached for his hand. It remembers what you forgot. A surge of warmth spread through him. He saw more Vision's children playing among giant sunflowers that glowed with healing spores. Old cities reborn as vine-covered sanctuaries, humans teaching animals how to speak in the forest's pulse, and then war, fire, missiles, earth choking in black rain. But the jungle survived. Why are you showing me this? He asked. Alira looked toward the ceiling where vines curled into a map of stars. Because the bloom spreads. And soon. The thorn will follow. His heart sank. The thorn, broken part of the root, a corrupted memory. It feeds on fear and burns through planets like a virus. A piece of us twisted by pain. She touched a nearby root, shivered, and an image appeared. A barren moon, once lush, now hollow. Burned, stripped. They thought they could control. The cure, they called it medicine. But they poisoned it with greed. The thorn remembers too. Relvek's voice cracked. Can it be stopped? Only if someone who remembers both bloom and thorn chooses to become the bridge. His pulse quickened. Alira nodded. You are not alien to Earth. You are part of its story. Will you walk its memory? Will you carry it into the stars? The vines wrapped gently around his arms, pulsing not with pain, but with invitation. He looked into her eyes again and saw hope. Rage, regret, forgiveness. He nodded slowly. Show me everything, the jungle responded. Roots lit up in a brilliant pattern that spread for miles, across forests, rivers, mountains, like veins awakening in a great body. From orbit, satellites captured the image. Earth's heart was beating again, and it was calling out to him. The thorn bloomed in silence, and the galaxy did not notice at first. It crept from forgotten corners of Earth, rising like a cancer from memories too painful to heal. While the bloom whispered in kindness and forgiveness, the thorn screamed. In hunger, rage, and grief. It was not born from nature. It was born from betrayal. And now, somewhere in the outer asteroid belts near Saturn's rings, it had taken root in a drifting medical frigate. Dr. Oren Vale was the first to notice something was wrong. The crew of the Verdancy, Hope had collected an unauthorized spore sample from Earth's surface 2 weeks earlier, delivered by smugglers. In cryo-sealed vials, spores looked identical to the Humanus Vita, golden, warm, glowing with potential. Something was different. Where the real spores pulsed with peace, these pulsed with hunger. The medbay, once clean and sterile, now smelled like rotting bark and copper. The first patient, a wounded miner suffering from blood rot, was given a microdose. Cuddle. He screamed for 17 minutes straight before falling silent. When the doctors opened him up, they found vines wrapped around his lungs blooms, where his heart had been. He wasn't dead. He was. Waiting, Dr. Vale tried to lock down the specimen, but it was too late. The thorn had already taken over the lower decks. Technicians went missing. Security bots malfunctioned. Plants began growing in the air vents. In the sleep chambers, even in the ship's core, it wasn't spreading. It was rebuilding. Vale sent a desperate transmission to the orbital authority. No reply. Only static followed by a sound that didn't belong to any machine. It sounded like a baby crying. Then ... whispering. The crew panicked. Some tried to abandon ship. The escape pods never launched. One by one, they vanished beneath blooming vines, their screams fading into silence. Those who remained changed. Their skin turned pale, veined with black. They spoke less. They stared longer. They stopped blinking. The thorn was rewriting them. Vale sealed himself in the observation dome, surrounded by plants that hadn't yet reached him. He scanned every file on Earth's botanical code, desperate to find a pattern. What he discovered chilled his soul. The thorn had DNA signatures from all Terran wars: chemical, biological, psychic. It carried trauma like a weapon. It remembered every atrocity, every failure. It had no interest in healing. It existed to repeat the pain, to show the galaxy what humans once suffered and dared to survive. Then came the transmission. Not from Earth, from the bloom itself. It hijacked the ship's old Terran frequency receiver and spoke not in a voice, but in visions. Field of white flowers, children running, a woman crying by a grave, a human soldier planting a seed into burned ground, and fire, screams, the thorn bursting from beneath. Vale saw the truth. The bloom was not Earth's gift. It was Earth's confession, and the thorn was its revenge. The message ended with coordinates hidden in the roots of an encrypted star chart. Vale deciphered them and gasped. The bloom was calling someone, Rulvek, the hybrid commander who had once walked into the Root Cathedral. Vale knew the stories how he had returned to his people changed, how the roots followed him into the stars. The bloom trusted him, and now it needed him. Suddenly, the door behind Vale cracked. Vines pushed through, pulsing with black sap. A face appeared between them, once a nurse, now unrecognizable. Her eyes glowed dull red, and flowers had burst from her jaw. "Join us," she whispered. Vale grabbed a sterilizer torch and backed toward the emergency transmitter. Not today. He set the torch to max output and burned through the vines, long enough to reach the console. His hands moved fast. One command. One chance. Transmission relay override. Emergency message to Commander Rulvek. He recorded his voice with shaking breath. "This is Dr. Vale, Board Verdancy Hope. The thorn has spread beyond Earth. It is intelligent. It mimics the bloom but carries only hate. It remembers war. It is war. We thought we could use the cure. But the cure remembers. If you can hear this, come quickly, before we become." Part of the scream? The transmission cut as the vines reached him. His final breath was silent, but the message traveled through dust, gas, and cold silence, until it reached a listening satellite hidden above a jungle moon where a cloaked, human-shaped figure sat cross-legged beneath glowing trees. "Commander." Rulvek opened his eyes. He had been dreaming of fire. Now he dreamed of thorns. The bloom inside him pulsed, once an ancient sadness rising in his bones. The roots whispered through his veins, carrying a message not of orders, but of grief. He stood. "This is the last warning," he whispered to the wind, and the jungle listened. The thorn had reached the stars. Now the bloom would follow. The spore clouds drifted silently across the moons of Kareth, cloaked in soft gold, almost beautiful from orbit. Civilians thought it was just dust, some rare atmospheric glitch, maybe a pollen event. They were wrong. Within hours, entire districts began to change. Glass buildings cracked under the pressure of fast-growing vines. Power grids were choked by roots. Hospitals, ironically, the first to fall, were overtaken by blooms that shimmered with inner light. The spores didn't kill instantly. They whispered first. Then they decided by the time the planetary defense grid tried to respond. Command terminals were already blooming literally. A single touch released clouds of memory-laced scent that forced officers to relive memories that weren't their own. Pain, starvation, fire, loss, whole lives in seconds. Most of them dropped their weapons, weeping. Some laughed. Others went catatonic. None could fight. Commander Rulvek watched the disaster unfold from the bridge of the Ardent Mercy.
Ow.
The last hybrid-run vessel not yet compromised by the thorn spores. His hands trembled slightly as he played Dr. Vale's transmission one more time. The ship's AI filtered it, cleaned the static but couldn't remove the fear in Vale's voice. It was a warning. The thorn was not just a mutation. It was a decision. Earth's jungle had chosen to preserve its pain. And now that pain had bloomed far beyond Earth. Rulvek turned toward the only person in the galaxy who could still answer. "Alira," he said softly, speaking to the green-veined hologram hovering beside him. She appeared slowly, blooming from a cluster of preserved root memory cells. She looked calm. "Ah, told you this would happen," she said, her voice soft but deep. "The bloom offers healing. The thorn offers memory. Both are true. Both are real. But the galaxy only wanted the part that made them better, not the part that made them remember." "They're not ready for this," Rulvek muttered. Alira's eyes flashed. They were never ready. But now the bloom must choose. Forgive Agnor. Defend what still grows. He didn't answer. Below them, Kareth burned under waves of growing vines. Not flame, not weapons, just Earth's broken memories spilling into other worlds. They were rooted in more than biology. These spores carried guilt, war, human cruelty. It had all been encoded, accidentally or not, into the thorn-spreading cells. Suddenly, the ship's AI alerted. Incoming distress signal source. Viridian Archive, Moon 7. Identity confirmed. Sori Zalith, Council Witness. Rolvek's heart jumped. Zalith was one of the few alien voices who had once defended Earth in the Council. She was a botanist, a scholar, a believer in peace. He accepted the call. Her voice came through, ragged. Rolvek. They're inside. The roots. They don't care anymore? I tried to use the serum, the one you sent. It burned them, but then it grew faster. These aren't just plants. They're questions. They keep asking me over and over, do you remember what you did? I don't know what it means. The audio glitched, and her voice changed. Slower, lower, echoed, or maybe, I do. Then silence. Alira looked down, her body flickering. She's been taken, Rolvek said. No, Alira whispered. She's been joined. Rolvek slammed a fist into the console. So what do we do? Let the galaxy get consumed by haunted forests and crying flowers. Alira stepped closer, her glowing hand touching his shoulder. We take them to the root core. Rolvek blinked. At the place where it began, beneath old Earth. The seed vault. The human project that first gave memory to the roots. That's where the bloom and the thorn are still divided. If you bring the thorn there, it might remember what it was meant to be. You want to merge them? Rolvek's voice cracked. Double quotes? No, I want to heal them, Alira said. But what? If the thorn doesn't want to be healed, Alira paused, her light dimming. Then we give it something it's never had. What? Someone who remembers the pain and chooses not to pass it on. He stared at her. You mean me? You carry both bloodlines? She said. You are of Earth. You are of the stars. You carry trauma. But you also chose peace. The decision tore through him like a jagged blade. He could fly to the seed vault, let the bloom confront its shadow, risk uniting both in one final memory burst that could either heal or obliterate. Or he could follow protocol, destroy Kareth, and every other planet the thorn touched. Wipe it clean. No memory. No pain. Just silence. But then he looked at the bloom etched into his wrist, the gift Earth had given him when he first stepped onto its soil. It pulsed gently, not in fear, in trust. He turned to the helm, set course for Earth, for the vault. Lyra bowed her head, fading into the roots once more. Behind them, the vines on Kareth shifted slightly. The thorn felt the decision, and for the first time, it hesitated. Earth's skies had not been this clear in 1,000 years. As the ardent mercy entered the upper atmosphere, no weapons fired, no vines struck out from orbit, and no roots dragged it from the sky. Commander Rolvek stood at the viewport in silence, watching the clouds spiral in golden coils across the horizon. The bloom was awake, so was the thorn, and they were waiting for him beside him. Alira stood still, her skin glowing faintly with shifting greens and silvers. She wasn't human anymore. Maybe she never truly had been. She was something born from Earth's grief. From the roots of memory, from the need to remember without breaking, Rolvek was afraid, but not for himself. He was afraid for what came next. Below them, where the cradle of humanity once stood. The vault opened, the seed vault. It had been built before the fall of Earth died, to preserve the DNA of every known plant, animal, and eventually human. But its true purpose had always been deeper than that. It wasn't just a vault of genes. It was a vault of memory, of choices, guilt. It was where the bloom had learned to remember, where the thorn had been born. As the ship settled into the living landing platform, yes, living. The platform itself pulsed beneath them. Rolvek stepped out, his boots pressing into soft moss that formed stairs, guiding him downward. The sky above remained still. No birds, no thunder, just quiet anticipation. The entrance to the vault wasn't a door. It was a blooming gate, made of vines that coiled into the shape of an open eye. When he stepped through, the air changed. Cooler, heavier, full of memories. Elira followed behind him, a presence more plant than person now. "Once you go inside," she said quietly, "the vault will not let you lie to yourself." He didn't answer. He already knew. Inside the chamber, roots lined the walls like veins through the body of a sleeping god. Crystals of memory bloomed along their length, small glowing pods that shimmered in rhythm. As Rulvik walked between them, the pods pulsed. Brighter, each one contained a moment, a story, a pain. He saw a child holding a burned animal in her arms, a soldier shaking in a trench, a mother watching a drone take her son away for purification. Over and over, not random, human history. Preserved in roots, they weren't just remembering. They were learning, and now, at the vault center, stood the final test. The thorn, it wasn't a creature, it wasn't a flower, it was a wound. A twisted mass of blackened roots curled into a sphere, pulsing with red light and sharp movement. It throbbed like a heart, but not alive. More like a scar. As Rulvik approached, the thorn uncoiled slightly. He stepped forward. "I'm not here to kill you." The thorn's vines hissed, brushing his boots, testing him. "I know why you exist," he said. "I saw what humans did, what we became. You are that pain, growing because no one would own it." A root wrapped around his ankle, then his wrist. The thorn pushed into his skin and it began. Memories flooded him, not his mass. Graves, dying forests, corporations turning life into profit. Children born into air that could kill them. Politicians smiling while the oceans choked. It was unbearable. But he didn't resist. He let the memories break him open, and then he gave his own. A small, trembling moment, not a battle, not a cry, but something simple. He was 12. It walked into a garden on a starship and seen a single Terran seed sprouting in a bowl of recycled soil. He remembered the wonder, the ache of wanting to protect it, the decision to dedicate his life to peace, even when surrounded by war. He gave that moment to the thorn, and it stopped. The red glow dimmed. The roots untangled slowly. A single bloom unfolded from its heart. Not black, not red-white. It was the same as the first bloom ever recorded. Humanus, vitted the flower that healed only through death. But this one bloomed through understanding. Elira stepped forward, tears blooming in her eyes like petals. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Rulvik said. "We remembered." The vault lit up around them, every pod glowing with unity. For the first time in 1,000 years, bloom and thorn no longer fought. They had merged, not in war, but in truth, from the surface. Light spread outward across the globe. Vines that once dragged ships down now lifted satellites into orbit. The spores that once whispered fear now carried songs of healing. Earth was no longer a death world. It was a world of memory, and the galaxy was listening. The first alien envoy landed on Earth 3 weeks later. Not in war, not in caution, but in awe. The Jarellan Confederacy, long skeptical of Terran myths, had seen the broadcast pulses from the Bloomthorn convergence. It had stunned even there. Oldest scholars, the Earth they once called a forsaken ruin, had become a beacon of memory, forgiveness, and survival. Delegates from over 40 star systems now requested a single thing: not weapons, not alliances, but access to the vault. And yet, Earth's answer was simple. Come, but only if you're willing to remember. Commander Rulvik stood at the edge of the Valley of Roots where the jungle had grown calm, humming softly under a purple sky. The vines no longer attacked, the flowers no longer judged. They waited for listeners. For those brave enough to know not just Earth's story but their own. Beside him, Elira breathed deeply, her form fully merged now with the blooming canopy above. She no longer needed a body. She was everywhere, part of every tree, every whisper, every sigh of wind. And yet she stayed close to him. "You started?" Something they can't understand, she said. I didn't start it, Relvik replied. I just refused to look away. A soft hum in the air signaled the arrival of the envoy. 3 tall figures stepped from their silver skiff, each one wrapped in smooth blue robes stitched with symbols of peace. Their leader, Elder Vanos, walked with reverence, eyes wide as he took in the glowing vines and quiet hills. So the stories were true, Vanos said, voice like gentle thunder. Earth lives. No, Rolvik said gently. Earth remembers. Vanos nodded, placing his palm against a nearby blossom. The vine pulsed, and a memory transferred. Vanos shuddered. That was not mine. It was someone else's pain, Rolvik said. Someone you've never met. You carry it now. If you choose to understand it, the bloom will accept you. If you reject it, I won't, Vanos whispered. This world offers what we've all forgotten. That same day, hundreds more arrived. Scientists, diplomats, even poets. And with them came silence. Not just out of fear, but respect. The jungle guided each visitor with vines that formed paths to personalized memories, carefully chosen from humanity's long, painful past. An Uran ambassador broke down after witnessing a memory of a Terran mother losing her child to hunger, only to plant a garden in her honor. A Caliph warrior dropped to his knees after reliving the final thoughts of a peacekeeper, gunned down while trying to stop a genocide. There were no lies here, no edits, no propaganda, only truth. The bloom was no longer just Earth's creation, it became a mirror for the galaxy. But the thorn, too, played its part. Not all were willing to remember. A mercenary team disguised. As envoys tried to burn a grove, the thorn answered. Quickly, silently, their weapons turned to ash, their minds overloaded with the very pain they brought. They ran. Earth did not pursue. It did not need to. Word spread across systems. Earth was no longer just the Deathworld. It was now the world of truth. Soon vaults were built on other planets using Earth's root code. Each bloom carried a fragment of human memory trauma, yes, but also forgiveness, endurance, and joy. Alien children began being taught Terran poems. Soldiers in distant wars knelt in bloom groves before deployment, seeking memories that reminded them of peace. And deep beneath Earth, in the original seed vault, one final bloom emerged. Unlike the others, it did not open with light, but with shadow. Rolvik stood before it, older now, his body lined with veins of green. The flower opened, revealing not pain, but choice. A memory that hadn't happened yet. A galaxy that had healed. Not by force, not by power, but by remembering its worst and choosing its best. Illyria appeared beside him, now a whisper on the wind. You always feared you couldn't fix anything. I didn't, Rolvik said. I just gave them the chance to remember. And what do we do now? She asked. Rolvik smiled, stepping. Into the vault's light, we listen. The Earth pulsed once more, and for the first time in all known history, the galaxy listened back.